All right, guys, it's Copper Cutlass, and the last time I filled you guys in on what was going on, we told you that we confirmed that the number 5 cylinder valve guides were, at least on the exhaust side, pretty bad. Intake side's also loose. You know, all the guides are probably beat up on these heads, to be honest with you, but we have to take a calculated risk because we have to, 1, buy ourselves a little time, 2, be mindful of our budget, and 3, just all around remember what our use for this engine was going to be. And it was going to be a utilitarian engine, and yeah. So I did get a hold of my machinist, and he told me to get him the cylinder head or both or whatever the hell I wanted to do ASAP, and he can knock it out within the 3-week window that we have. So it's Saturday, Memorial Day weekend, and this morning loaded my wife up into the Suburban, and we went to Indiana and we picked up some parts. I picked up a core engine, a transmission, bunch of goodies at a price I could not pass up. And it actually makes up for kind of having these crappy cores. I mean, I wouldn't call them crappy, but we got, you know, this is a 72, actually 71, because it's got 7 heads. So this low compression motor is really, truly, it's got the toilet bowl dish pistons in it. And I was going to combine this 73 with the 14cc pistons, but we know that this engine is actually hurt, so we don't know how much of it we can utilize. So I picked up a really, really cherry 70-350, a low compression motor, but if we mill the heads, deck the block, and just kind of freshen it up, put a towing cam in it, 4-barrel intake, it'll be a really nice running engine. And that's going to be the goal, or I might just put an aluminum intake on it, 4-barrel, fire it up, see what it does, and just have a running engine, because it's complete. It's complete. It still has a 2-barrel carburetor, and I'll make videos on that later, but today's focus is going to be getting this apart. I got to get the cylinder head off and try to minimize the work as much as I can. So we'll fill you in as we go here. Fucking ambulance in the background, asshole. So we'll let you guys go, and we'll see how it goes. Well, guys, it actually snowballed. You know, what we thought was a valve guide, valve seal issue really wasn't. The valves on the backside weren't wet. There wasn't any real oil there. There wasn't anything that really, like, told me that, you know, I got oil coming in from the valve stem area. Now, the valves are a little on the loose side, but what I found out is the piston pin on the number 5 cylinder is starting to walk out. And check this out. When you make out the grooves, you see how they're at 90 degrees. You see how they're perfectly spaced apart, and it's a round surface, so it's catching the edges of the pin. This could have been way worse. Either the pin stopped walking where it did, or it just whatever, but I'm glad I pulled it apart, because that could have been a lot worse. This is what you call pulling a horseshoe out of your ass, because yeah, if that did any more damage and it started to really gall it up on the one side, yeah, you're talking about scatter city. Now, we may be able to save this at this point. I'm pulling it out. There's a lot of really good parts in this thing, so it's a matter of the piston isn't too damaged, and getting new rods. Then we'll just get new rods and run with it, and hopefully be fine. Hopefully, since that area of the piston, again, I don't know what it's going to look like when I pull it out, but it's actually fairly smooth in there. So hopefully that piston isn't too messed up. I don't think I have any spares. I had a bunch of 30 over flat tops. Finding just one may be a pain in the ass enough to just abort mission. But these pistons are kind of cheap. But again, it's like starting over again, but this engine ran really good. So again, stock rods. So I'm gonna probably deem the rods, not the clearances, bad here, because these were, if I remember right, man, the ends were kind of ground pretty heavy on the small end. So maybe it was just a little too much for the amount of RPM and stress we were putting through the engine. But regardless, you know, we've never really had catastrophic failure on anything. We've always, like, caught it just in time. This is one of those, like, holy shit moments, because thank God I run an engine diaper, but it's not always guaranteed that it's going to be contained to the engine diaper. So now we have to scramble because we got 3 weeks before our next race to get the other motor in. And going in blind yet again. But at least with that engine, we know that everything's pretty good. Everything that was in it went back into it. And, you know, it's pretty much what we ran before. So hopefully we put it in, it fires up, we'll get it to the track. Just a lot of work this season. A lot of work. But clearly, yeah, this thing is not happy. Not happy at all. So it's kind of bittersweet, because this engine really did kick ass. I mean, we managed 1150s out of this thing with a bad tune. So the potential was there. And obviously, I think at this point we got about 30 passes on the motor. We're going to see what we can do at this point. I just have to move forward, swap the engine, and run what I got, because that's all I got. So I'm glad we ran this engine, and it did what it did. So this quickly escalated. But a friend of mine mentioned that the piston looked really, really clean for how, if it was burning that much oil, because I was following the plug with oil. But I mean, that piston is really, really clean, which made me think, like, okay, maybe there's something else is going on there. And that's when I started to feel in that cylinder. I rotated the engine and checked in the cylinder and found the grooves, because that means that not only were we lacking probably compression in that engine, we were we had no real oil control. Oil was getting past it, and we were constantly coating the top side of the piston. So, you know, it is what it is. We'll let you guys go. I have to get that engine out of the basement. So now I really have to work. This should be fun. 3 weeks, guys. Our next race is June 17th. So I have to come up with a plan, get that engine out, and get it in and fired up. And we might even, you know, put it in, fire it up, take it to a test and tune. So we got carburetors up the wazoo. We got our ignition issues figured out. And this is one of those where I learned a lot with this engine. From carburetors to diagnostic to looking into things that I never thought I would have looked into. But we'll let you guys go. Share, like, subscribe, keep following. It's not exactly the most depressing thing in the world, but it's this would be probably the one engine where, you know, we did a lot of work to it, did everything right, but ultimately I think the rod end nipped us there. So I'm gonna blame the stock rods. So 7,000 RPM, you know. So the machinist I use is very good, so I'm not going to question his work because he's done work for other friends of mine and he's done great. But, you know, we knew the nature of this build. And he also explained that to me. So I kind of knew going into it. So I'll let you guys go. Share, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Scott Porcullis. We'll let you go.